What you're hearing is Hardy Fiber Cement Siding living up to its reputation as the siding that helps resist weather damage, no matter what Mother Nature throws its way. James Hardy knows how important a reputation is, especially when you're a home builder. That's why Hardy products withstand the elements better than wood-based siding, with styles to match their strength. Because when home builders work with us, we deliver our best so they can look their best. Protect your reputation with exterior products by James Hardy.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late-night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio.
Sackheads. Radio. Sackheads. Radio.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
In America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.
What are you doing over there tonight? And you don't even have a microphone on, which means I can pretty much say whatever I want. This is practically like the fox guarding the hen house right now. Hi, welcome. Oh, just simmer down over there. Hey, it's the 3rd of December, 2014. I'm Sackhead Clint. Seated to my left now as he scrambled to go from Sacco's seat because we decided not to let him out of the cage just yet. Just yet. There were some issues in this, something about a choke collar and a whip. Anyway, it's not important, but Sacco is not out of his...
I don't even know where he got the ball gag.
Cage right now. What are you talking? You got it from your sock drawer.
But how did he get there from the cage? That's the problem.
I don't know. I don't know, Margot.
Welcome, everybody, this
I just
evening.
said that.
I know, but I like to say it, too.
Well, then why are you saying it now, too?
Because people like me more than you. You know this.
This is true, until they get to know me.
People
and
like
then they
me
like
more than
you even more. Yeah,
the best thing I ever did for my popularity was hang out with you.
That's sad.
Dude, it's pathetic, really. It's really pathetic. But I'll take it, you know.
And you do take it. So we have an exciting show.
We have a very exciting show this evening.
But enough of that.
Enough of that. So I want to have a little discussion with the good people of California. Real quick.
Okay. Is this a segment?
No. This is a complaint. And actually, I'd like
just one? Just one complaint
This is one of the most recent.
California?
You know how I am. This is bothering me now, so I talk about it now.
Okay.
When it rains...
It pours. That's a good point.
All you have to do is drive a little bit slower.
Right.
And not... like a-holes.
And the finger gesture you have going on right now, he's got his little index finger and his thumb pinched together so tight. You can see the white at the tips of the fingers because there's no capillary refill because he's pinching so hard.
I am so frustrated.
And he's pointing it in my specific direction.
You have no idea. You do. The listeners out there. So we got some rain in Northern California.
Finally.
And we've gotten some rain.
Because of climate change.
Right.
Because it was dry and now it's wet. Therefore, the climate changed.
The climate did change.
Right.
And it's actually a little bit of global cooling because it's cooling off right now. So we finally got a little bit of rain. We've gotten rain over the last couple of weeks, but nothing significant. This was the first significant storm of the year.
Correct.
Where we officially crossed into the rainy season here. Or the wet season, whatever you want to call it. They call it a bunch of things. Winter.
But it's not really winter officially.
It literally goes brown to green here, just so people who don't live in this area, it's horrible. Anyhow, it rained today hard. Now, where I come from, we get things like snow in the wintertime.
Sleet.
Right. We drive a little bit slower. I'm not going to say there's never any incidents.
Okay.
But there are less incidents than there are. California, when it rains...
It's a bigger population here.
I swear to God... No, it's not. No, it's not. From Boston to this area? No way.
No. California to Massachusetts.
That has nothing to do with it. I'm talking this specific
More
metropolitan
people
area.
to drive like knuckleheads.
But that's
You said
exactly-
California at the beginning of your
That's
complaint.
exactly all right. Fine, our metropolitan area, but I'm sure it's going on like this everywhere
Okay.
because they're all idiots. Instead of just slowing down a little bit, here's how California people drive: 100 miles an hour forward.
Uh-huh.
If anything gets in their way, instead of turning like we learned to do on Better Off Dead, if something gets in your way, turn. They just slam into it,
Right.
or for no reason drive off the freeway.
And then sue you.
And it took me, normally it's a 40-minute trip for me to go from my house to the studio. It took me 2 hours and 26 minutes today because of a little freaking rain.
And the reason I know that you're accurate on your time is you must have had your stopwatch program going on your phone, because you came in and you shoved that screen in my face, and it was 226 on the screen, and you said, "Look at this crap," and proceeded to go on about a 10-minute tirade
It's
as I
just
was
so
doing all of the prep work.
Freaking frustrating. And that's the other thing. I wanted to be here at 4 today. I had so much to
And
do.
you said that earlier, too.
Exactly. We talked earlier in the day. I had so much to do that I'm not going to be able to get to now. It's already screwed up the show. So now I'm just
No. The
aggravated.
show's not screwed up.
No, it screwed me up for the show. How's that? Is that better?
No, because you're doing fine. You're a cantankerous little man like always.
But I see, I'm telling you, when I see cars facing the wrong way on the freeway,
I laugh and high-five myself that it's not me this time.
it shocks me. How do you do that?
How do I high-five myself?
No. I've seen you do that. How do you end up facing the wrong way on the freeway? You're going fast in the other direction. What did you do? What, a little bit of mist hits the thing and you just go BSC? It's seriously, it's so frustrating to me. Driving around here is so asinine.
So what?
Asinine.
Okay.
It's just beyond insane. It is. I just, people of California, 10, 12, 15% of you is okay. The rest of you, seriously, you need to get some freaking help. I'm just telling you. Man. Alive. I'm so aggravated. You saw how I got in here. Traffic was so bad.
Notice, folks, I'm not saying anything. I'm just staring.
He's
at
just
him
gonna
and
let me go.
continues on. Oh, yeah.
Traffic was so bad today. One of the things I like to do when I'm working is I'll throw a documentary on my phone and listen to it. Because it's a documentary. There's not a lot of visual stuff in documentaries. I listened to 2 on my way in today.
They must have been really short ones.
No! It was insane.
What'd you listen to?
There's actually...
Hardy fiber cement siding is proven to withstand water, pests, and fire better than wood-based siding. And it looks better while doing it. Hardy siding has been chosen for 10 million homes and counting. See the proof at jameshardy.com. What you're hearing is Hardy fiber cement siding living up to its reputation as the siding that helps resist weather damage, no matter what Mother Nature throws its way. James Hardy knows how important a reputation is, especially when you're a home builder. That's why Hardy products withstand the elements better than wood-based siding, with styles to match their strength. Because when home builders work with us, we deliver our best so they can look their best. Protect your reputation with exterior products by James Hardy.
And I don't like to give CNN a lot of credit, but they did a great documentary on Whitey Bulger recently. And it was a CNN Films. They didn't produce it or anything. It was another company. But the first one was in World War II. Huh?
Is he a racist?
Why? Because his name's Whitey?
Yeah.
No, it's because he had platinum blonde hair, and we used to have nicknames before everyone got all sensitive and bizarre.
Got it.
You caught up with me, Toucan Sam? Okay,
Yes.
good. If you have a chance, if you don't know the story of Whitey Bulger, you're living under a rock. It was huge where I grew up because it was in the city I grew up in. But it's an amazing, amazing documentary. The tale is bizarre. How much, again, our good friends at the FBI, how much the FBI was corrupted back in that area at that time, and just how one person could manipulate so many systems and get away with it. It really, if you have a chance, sit down, put some time aside, and watch it. It's very educational. And from what I know, and I'm not saying I know a lot, but from what I know, it's very, very accurate. So if you get a chance, do it. now I'm starting to breathe a little bit. I'm starting to feel better. Hey, if you listen to us, go to www.shrmedia.com and click live chat. Jump in the chat room and join the rest of our wonderful listeners that are in there. Hello to everyone that's in the chat room this evening. Thank you again to Ken McClinton for warming everyone up for us. And by that, I mean, doing the main part of the show, and we're kind of the afterthought. We'll take it. Make sure you check us out on Twitter and Facebook. We'll see you next week, folks. Wait, are we
no.
done?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, it's really hard when Sokka's not here to keep us on schedule.
We can keep our own selves on schedule.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
Well, let's
at
see how
all.
this goes.
Okay.
The board's done. Look, you walked in, the board was done.
Right. And,
everything was up and running.
For once.
And I did that.
It figured the two of us were well over an hour late. You were like an hour late. I was 2 hours late.
I was also.
And I come in and the board's done. Normally you're rushing that. You're running like a little book nerd at the last couple seconds trying to finish a test before the teacher pulls the plug. Just scribbling everything down. And
which was actually me in school also. I was so bored by taking tests that I would do other things.
Everyone says Sokka finally escaped. Just because I said Sokka's not here doesn't mean he escaped.
No, he's kept off site.
Right.
And I think that's what a lot of our audience doesn't understand. We keep Sokka off site. If you remember, I was on a hiatus for 1 week, not a couple weeks ago, but prior to that, where I was actually up in the mountains, and I had to call in from a hill that I had to get to the top of in order to get a signal to call into the show, where we were able to find a location to keep him.
Right. So we finally found that location, and that's
right.
We have him.
We practically geocached it. We actually input. If you geocache, you may find Sokka one day because we put a little marker on him. So if you take our Sokka, you may end up having to give us something else. I don't know.
Ooh, that would be a good one. Like, can we finally trade Sokka for
not another person?
A thing for Skittles.
Right.
Right. Okay. Good. Oh, man. So, I come in and I sit down. We kind of talk about what we're going to do for the show. I finish watching the rest of my documentary and eat my cheeseburger.
Thank you for the apple pie, by the way. It was delicious.
Somebody said they're willing to trade us Hillary's cankles for Sokka. That's no. Because they have their own zip code, and I can't have a place that big to store those.
I think I threw up a little bit in my mouth just even thinking. Because I pictured them.
I just picture
around. So what's? Never mind. I was gonna say, do you think Bill's jowls and Hillary's cankles, when they're up there, get kind of
no? I ate. Why? There goes everybody listening right now. Just about everybody listening. No. Actually, no. People are staying. That's weird. It's almost like they expect
Ken
that
pictured
from
it. Ken pictured it. I could tell by the response.
But I love when you say...
I want somebody to draw that as a cartoon.
When you say things like that, the first thing I do is go to the chat room and look and just watch all the disgust just pour right on through. It is outstanding. It is truly outstanding. So we get in, we sit down, and we talk about a few things, and I look up, and I'm looking at the board at 2015, which magically happens to be right this very moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's scheduled, and all you titled it, and this is your segment, Disney Thinks God is Evil.
No, I didn't say God is evil. It's a quote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
God is not, quote, nice.
Right. Sorry.
I saw this story earlier this week, and there's a little girl, and she loves the Disney Channel. And it was her 10th birthday, and so she went to church and had lunch and came home and went to the computer to log on to Disney Channel's website, and in there there's a question that she noticed that asked basically what people were thankful for. So her response was, quote, God, my family, my church, and my friends. It's a 10-year-old little girl, right?
That's a very, very good list, actually.
Very, very offensive, obviously.
Well,
right. So when she went to put it in, she got a response back written in red that said, quote, please be nice, exclamation point. Hence the nice from the quotation marks. And so she tried entering it again, and again she got the same response, please be nice, exclamation point. Basically like the Disney Channel is yelling at her to be nice. and called her mother in, who went in there and tried to type it and got the same warning. Well, when they removed the word God, the message was approved.
So they start mix and matching all the different words into this little whatever it was program. And it wasn't until they removed the word God
Correct.
did that warning go away.
Right. And so the family contacted, I believe it was Todd Starnes over at Fox News, the one that ended up writing the article about it on December 1st when I saw it. And first of all, I like Disney. I mean, anybody with kids, you got to love Disney and Disneyland if you've ever been. But I don't know that I can patronize them. And I'm not shocked, particularly given the theme of Cars 2 and, Evil Oil and all that other good stuff
Right.
That they did. So obviously Disney is a left of center company, to say the least. But to have a 10-year-old say that the word God is not nice,
That's frustrating.
what kind of message does that send?
That sends a horrible
Right?
message.
That basically believing in God is bad. It's not nice.
Zaxby's just out Philly the Philly again. The Zaxby's Chicken Philly is back with garlic aioli, sauteed peppers and onions, decadent melty cheese, and your choice of Zaxby's signature crispy chicken fingers or delicious grilled chicken. But it's only back for a limited time, so enjoy it while you can. No pressure. It's just the greatest sandwich of all time on a ticking clock. Order the Chicken Philly today. Who's got the sauce? Zaxby's.
It's what? It's rude?
No, there's no problem. And listen, here's my issue with this, and there are atheists that will agree with me.
Uh-huh.
A person's belief in a higher power is that person's individual belief. It is not anybody else's job, especially when you're a corporation with children. But on top of that, it's not anyone else's job.
Right. Well, Disney did have a statement, and the statement that came out on December 2nd, and it's a quote, Disney employs word filtering technology to prevent profanity from appearing on our websites. Unfortunately, because so many people attempt to abuse the system and use the word God in conjunction with profanity, in an abundance of caution, our system is forced to catch and prevent any use of the word on our websites. The company would have been happy to explain our filtering technology to the inquiry family had they contacted us. So, you can't filter the word damn it or damn or any variation thereof, because that would be a word that is used in conjunction with God in profanity, right? So you don't target those words in your filtering technology, in your high-tech little world, but you filter the word God. And then to say something as condescending as the company would have been happy to explain our filtering technology to the inquiring family had they contacted us. No, because now the whole world knows, or at least those that actually care enough to read into this, knows enough about Disney and the thought process. No apology.
At all.
Right? So with the technology that's available today, and Stephen Hawking just came out with a warning today about virtual intelligence, right? About artificial intelligence.
Yes.
So with the technology that's available today, you have as part of your filter the word God and not anything else that's in conjunction. I don't buy that. That's a bunch of crap.
I don't buy that either. That was listen. This is intentional, and if Saka was here, this is kind of his forte. And you know what? That transport company. Well, I'm sorry. I'll do air quotes. Company that we hired to bring him here from the swamp is going to get fired if they don't hurry up. But I know you can set your filters to a whole bunch of different things. You can add specific words, phrases, combinations of phrases, et cetera, and if this was a Fortune 500 company internal, like you're an employee at the Fortune 500 company, and they said, you can't use God for a password only because too many people use it and it creates a possible breach, I can understand that.
Right.
Same thing for federal employees, state employees, anything where you have medical employees, confidential information, just like pets' names. A lot of the most common pets' names are not allowed to be used as passwords. When you are Disney and you have all these little kids. And I hate to tell you this, a lot of people that go to Disney are Christian. There's a lot of Christians that go to Disney because it's a safe environment. It's a clean environment. We can argue about management, et cetera, which we're about to. But the experience itself for young children is amazing. You don't have to worry as much when you're in Disney just because of what it is and the safety precautions that they take. But I think this could possibly, if it goes, if people really start following this and pay attention,
It could hurt them.
it could hurt them big time. And you absolutely are shooting yourself in the foot.
You can't say shooting at Disney in the same sense. I'm pretty sure they have some kind of rule against that.
I just got, but you're shooting yourself in the foot when you start playing a role as to whether or not you allow God or not allow God, even on your little websites.
Particularly when you're talking about what a kid is thankful for. Now, there was a comment in the chat room, hey, did Disney buy George Lucas' Star Wars franchise? Yes, they did. They also bought Marvel.
Yeah.
So all the Avengers and Spider-Man, all of that is now
All
Disney,
part of Disney
as well.
Yep. And that's, I have my personal apprehensions because I was a Star Wars fan growing up and a comic book fan. But I had my apprehensions about Disney taking over the Star Wars. But honestly, after the last week George Lucas released, I mean, how much worse could they make it? And I also have a issue with them being involved with the superheroes and,
Particularly Marvel superheroes. Look,
Yes.
DC superheroes, they've lost their damn mind a long time ago, right? Superman renounced his U.S.
American
citizenship,
yep.
and Green Lantern's homosexual now. And I mean, DC is just going out of their way to really
cater
to the far left. But the Avengers series has been pretty good. Captain America has been pretty good.
Very patriotic.
Right, very patriotic. Old school values,
even
with the current movies,
right? And even Spider-Man on that separate offshoot.
Yep.
How many times did he land on the American flag? And it shows very clean, very big, very bright. Like they did a really good job of that.
Yes.
And they've made some changes. Listen, we had this discussion. I had my little group of nerd friends about the discussion about Captain America is being taken over by a black guy, and it was the guy who
it was his partner.
Who was his partner for the longest time. And there are people who are upset about that. Yeah. Black Falcon, as a matter of fact.
Right.
And there were people who are upset about that, and I laugh because I'm like,
why? That happened, I think it actually happened in the comic books.
Right.
Because there's been a couple different Captain Americas.
Right. So what's the problem?
And that's a natural progression.
Right.
So it's not like they just did this completely out of thin air.
Every superhero series has this happen.
Right.
Where somebody else picks up the mantle, somebody else carries over. So, I'm not bothered by that at all. I'm bothered by whether or not they're going to start having an agenda about morals versus just being superheroes.
Right.
And I don't mean morals like good versus evil, crime versus, blah, 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 blah. That's always been in superhero books. But I'm talking about equality, false equality, this pushing of certain agendas that don't need to be pushed. And it's sad because now, like you said, I read comic books growing up. You read comic books growing up. Now I'm going to be apprehensive to let kids read comic books.
Is Playboy a comic book?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I read
It
comic
has that
books.
comic section at the end.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. What?
I forgot about that.
I read comic books. You
Yeah.
out of your mind?
Yeah, come on.
I still read them. So, and it's hard because, like you said, and there are people slamming Disney, the parks and everything in our chat room. I think if you go and you, of course, with like any other population, there's always a possibility that you're going to have a few bad people in there. But Disney is the best at customer experience, customer service, safety.
They are. They do a very good job in their parks. But when they start pushing this kind of agenda or taking God completely out of things or start taking some of that good and evil away, that's what I'm concerned about, is kind of this mix between good and evil, and evil isn't really evil, or bad guys aren't really bad. And you look at what they did with Tangled and Flint Rider.
Yes.
Right? He's a thief. He's a burglar. The guy's a dirtbag. and he steals some jewels, and he ends up being the hero, right?
Yeah.
So you already kind of see some of this theme about, well, bad's not really bad, and, that's my, yeah.
Well,
so I don't know how I'm going to, I don't know what I'm going to do about this.
But if you look at a lot of the newer Disney movies, they all have this whole, you look at Cars, and like you said, it was anti-big oil in the second one. They do push this leftist agenda from time to time.
What?
Oh, the Playboy discussion that's going on in our chat room right now. Yeah, I always wonder why all the ladies seem to leave after the first half. All of our female listeners jump out of our chat. But even Aladdin, I mean, you go back all the way back to Aladdin. Aladdin was a thief. The whole reason Aladdin got to the point where he got the genie is essentially he was in custody.
Right.
He was under arrest.
Right.
And he was kind of forced into it. So...
Yes.
I'm responding to the chat room. So... and essentially it was, and I understand that there's something good about a story about somebody who is maybe having a hard time in life, doing wrong things that turn their life around for the best. But Aladdin, to the end, he was a cheat and a liar.
Right.
It wasn't until it was put upon him, like it was one decision or another, that he's either going to die or live, essentially, if he doesn't do the right thing. Like, he was forced into that decision. And I've always thought about that with Aladdin. I have always had a problem with Disney princesses, because
I love Disney princesses
of the false reality that gets played out.
But that's every little girl's fantasy, right? To be a princess, be rescued by the prince.
Okay, but let me bring up Cinderella. The guy who swears to God she's the love of his life.
Right.
This woman, I can't live without her, blah, 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 blah. Less than 24 hours later, he can't even remember what her face looks like. So where's he been staring this whole time?
He's a guy.
Right.
Why would he know what the
saying.
face looks like? Can you describe the face of any girlfriend you've had? I mean, honestly.
No. But I'm not writing movies.
I mean, you've got to do a lineup of body parts, right? Oh, yeah, those are her legs.
Yeah. You got to go to feet because he's a foot pervert.
Exactly.
That's even
because
worse.
He's a pervert.
He's a foot pervert.
Why, so what? He's a foot pervert. Who cares?
Oh, and I want to grow up. I
Obviously,
want to be just like
she was
Cinderella.
into it.
Really? You want some guy with a foot pervert? Really? That's the guy?
It's a foot fetish. So what?
Yeah.
It's not like the guy's
the foot
going
pervert.
around.
It's the nastiest part of the human body. I don't understand. I'll never understand that. I will never understand that.
Don't judge.
Oh, it's horrible. Just think about how your feet smell at the end of a long day. And now there are guys that are trying. Get out of here. That's horrible. That's horrible. Yeah, it's a horrible thing.
How do we go from Disney god to foot fetish princess?
Wait, because it's about to get better. We're going to jump from feet fetish right into...
Race war.
Right into a race
war. Yeah, when we come back from the break.
No, we're not even... Oh, we are up against the break.
Yeah, when we come back from a break, we're going to come back and discuss, especially given everything that's gone on the last couple weeks and things that are happening in New York right now, things that Louis Farrakhan said. Are we headed towards a race war here in America? And are we being pushed closer to that? I believe we are. Hopefully we're not ending up in a full-blown race war, but we're going to talk about some things when we come back after this break here on the Sackheads Radio Show.
Radio.
Pack news. Pack news.
Radio.
Pack news. Pack news.
Radio.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on the Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberties, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Hello, I'm Paul, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is my professor, Dr. Larry Arnn, on the separation of church and state.
America's founders believed in the separation of church and state, in that the country was not to have an official religion or an official sect. But that did not mean that government was to be hostile to religion, or even indifferent to religion, as many today argue. In fact, America's founding document, the Declaration of Independence, includes both a reference to God as the author of the laws of nature and a confident assertion that human beings are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Far from being hostile or indifferent to religion, America's founders understood the theology of the Declaration to be an essential part of the education of citizens.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
Hi, this is Rooster from Outcry Radio. Catch me here on Blog Talk Radio every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or follow my blog. Now, back to the Sackheads.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Radio.
Fact news. Fact news. Fact news. Fact news. Fact news. Fact news.
And we're back. I think we're back. I don't know if we're back or not. Sean, are we going to let Sacco out of the cage
At some point
soon? It's remote because I mean he is a fair distance away, so it is remote. We have to send the signal, the uplink. Go ahead and get on and send it, and then he'll be able to join us.
Oh man, yeah. I don't think so. Like I said, if his handlers actually make the delivery, we won't have to worry about it because they just slide his cage right in the corner. We push the board right up next to him. It works out great.
It usually does.
Are you? You know, I walk away from the chat room for 2 minutes, and I come back and I start reading, and then I just get nervous. And then I know it gets bad when Mary bounces. And she's like, yeah, and I'm out. Just saying. So.
It's your segment.
Oh, this is my
Why
segment?
are you staring at me?
So the big question of the evening and everything that's going on in Ferguson, then the release tonight of the non-indictment, if you will, against the New York City police officer who choked out.
He didn't choke him out.
He did.
He did not.
He had to, though.
It was not a chokehold. He had him in a headlock.
All right. But at the end of the day,
he didn't have him in a carotid. He didn't have him in a triangle choke. He didn't have him in any kind of MMA super stud. It was look. This guy was huge.
I'm glad I'm doing this segment.
Okay, but yeah, I hate the headlines that say that it was a chokehold death because that's a bunch of crap.
It's a common colloquialism, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter why it ended that way. It had to, right? This guy was enormous, like you said.
Yeah,
he was 6'4", I think.
725,
pushing like
kilograms,
4 bills at least. Kilograms?
I don't know.
What are you, Canadian?
Eh?
And he did, he did die. And
yes, he did die. That is confirmed.
Yes. I was just confirming that for everybody. But again, just like there's a case out of Alabama that we were talking about earlier before we went on the air of a black police officer who shot a white kid who was 18 years old, and they're making a lot of comparisons to the Ferguson shooting, et cetera, et cetera. But reality is that officer did not get an indictment either, the Alabama officer, because it found the use of force was justified. And that's something that, if you want to change what qualifies the use of force, et cetera, then you need to go down that road. But the simple fact of the matter is, just like Ferguson, just like Alabama, and now in New York, the rule of law was upheld.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter, and I say this all the time. I had a discussion about Ferguson with a liberal. They were talking about all this horrible, and they just shot that poor kid for no reason, blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, did you read any of the indictment? Well, no, but I've heard things. I said, okay. I said, how about I do this? And I pulled one of our friends over, and our friend Leo, very, very big, and I pointed to him, and the poor kid didn't even know what I was talking about, but I said, what if I seat you in your car, put a gun next to you, have him for no reason, doesn't matter why, come in through the window and start pounding on your skull. Repeatedly, just pounding and pounding and pounding and pounding. What are you going to do? You have two options. You're going to die, or potentially die.
Right.
Or you're going to pull out the gun.
And he's grabbing for the weapon.
Don't even get there, because that's a totally, like I said, that's a totally different, doesn't matter.
But that's a big part of this story, too.
It is a big part of the story, but I'm just talking about the basics. You think you're going to die. This person is going to kill you. You have the one option to save your life. Do you use it?
That is being tried to be taken away from you.
That's the biggest problem right now, is people want to make this about everything else. And I talked last week about the cousin of Michael Brown, who was on Fox News the night of the indictment went out. And I didn't agree with everything he said, but one of the best things that he did say, and I thought it was actually kind of brilliant, is he said, hey, once you called my cousin a black man and the police officer a white cop,
yep, exactly,
you now take everything away from them as human beings, and you just turn them into essentially chips in a game.
Yes, and this is happening again here in this Eric Garner case.
Yes,
because here you have even on Fox News, I'm calling them out on this again. They're race baiting on this stuff just as much as anybody else. And here from this story, this headline, today's date, Fox News: Eric Garner chokehold death. No indictment for NYPD cop. DOJ to open civil rights probe. First line: the family of an unarmed black man who was killed by a white New York City police officer. That's the opening line.
Totally inflammatory.
Completely inflammatory. Look, is it a tragedy that this person died?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Was this person fighting with law enforcement?
Yes.
Yes, he was. And look, this cop didn't. If he wanted to kill this guy, he would have pulled out a gun. He would have done something else. He didn't. He attempted to control this individual so he could take him into custody. One of the ways you do that is by controlling the head, because where the head goes, the body follows. And he died. Yes, it is a tragedy. This officer didn't murder him. This officer didn't make him fight. And I'll tell you this. I heard something that he was being arrested for selling individual cigarettes in New York because the cigarette tax is so high. Okay, minor crime. I don't care about that. You elevated it as a person being taken into custody once you decide to fight. Once you decide to resist arrest, you are now committing another crime. And this officer attempted to control this individual, take him to the ground, so that they can take him into custody and effect the arrest.
Folks, the other thing that you don't realize is this happens, maybe not this specific type of incident, but these incidents happen all over the country, all the time. And it's unfortunate when people have to lose their lives, but oftentimes we've seen with Michael Brown, as we've seen with the kid in Alabama, and now we see with Eric Garner, people make the wrong decisions in those situations. And that's the thing that we're losing in this country more and more, is the accountability on the person who's created this situation. Yes, are there bad cops out there? We've talked about this before. Of course there are. It's a tiny percentage. Just like there are bad politicians. Look at California. If you're a state representative in California,
You're probably a douchebag.
Right. I mean, if I were you and I've done anything even slightly illegal in my whole life, I'd be looking over my shoulder because they're coming for you.
Mm-hmm.
There are bad politicians. There are bad doctors who write themselves prescription drugs or write bad drug prescriptions to celebrities. Michael Jackson. Where was the outrage about that? That guy killed Michael Jackson. Where's the outrage? Weird, right? There's no outrage there. The king of pop. And it was a doctor who overprescribed him Propofol. It's involuntary manslaughter. Where was the outrage? Right, there was no outrage.
No.
Because the doctor himself was black, so there was no story. This is the problem.
White doctor kills black pop star.
Oh, right. No, he was jealous. He wanted him dead.
Right.
He was sick
he
of
couldn't
working for a black
He couldn't
man.
stand the success.
So you take these individual cases and you add the media, and then you add race baiting in the media on top of it. And we all know who our favorites are when it comes to race baiting. And Ken has a great quote in the chat room. All metropolitan cities starting tomorrow must submit to vigilante justice subject to the review and discretion of the law firm of Jackson, Sharpton, and Farrakhan. And sadly, that's where it's going. Everything now is about race. And everything now is including the responses of city officials.
And speaking of city officials, that D-bag mayor came out.
I think it's pronounced de Blasio.
Oh, de Blasio.
Not D-bag. I can see how you'd make that mistake, though.
Yeah, well, I just glanced at it really briefly here, and so that's what I thought it was. So Mayor D-bag, what's his name? Doesn't matter. Mayor D-bag says that basically this is something. This is racism that's been going on for not a couple years, not decades, but hundreds of years. So you have the mayor that is in on this too. And I want to talk about the St. Louis Rams for a moment.
All right, we'll get back to D-bag in a minute.
Look, no, he's done. We don't want to give him any more fame. He's a D-bag, communist D-bag. I think that's a brand. So the St. Louis Rams, there were 5 players that came out in the game against the Oakland Raiders. That's kind of interesting in and of itself. Anyways, I digress.
The fact that it would be called a game?
The fact that they were playing a team from Oakland.
Right.
And these 5 St. Louis Rams players come out with their hands up.
Mm-hmm.
In the hands up, don't shoot pose in support of them.
Well, yeah, because they were playing the Raiders. And they were probably afraid the Raiders were going to rob them, right?
No.
Oh.
No, they were in St. Louis.
Oh.
So they come out with their hands raised to show support, solidarity with. Look, first of all, how uninformed do these guys have to be? Second of all, I have so much to say on this. The Police Officers Association issued a statement basically talking about how disappointed it was. A great quote, something to the effect of, they're safe in their dome while hundreds of officers are there protecting them. You know, this officer did nothing wrong. And then, I didn't know this, but in St. Louis, there is a Black Peace Officers Association also. And they issued a statement today basically saying, well, what that Police Officers Association says doesn't speak, essentially, I'm paraphrasing here, doesn't speak for all officers because they have a very small percentage of black officers in their association. And we agree with what these Rams players did.
Yeah, that's just so wrong.
So
Just
the
so
NFL,
wrong.
the NFL isn't going to do anything about it.
But Marshawn Lynch doesn't want to talk to the media, and he gets fined $10,000 or whatever it was. That is
right. So here's what the executive vice president of football operations for the Rams says.
Oh, I can't wait for this.
Kevin Demoff.
D-bag.
Dumbass.
Is he related to the mayor?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But it says, quote, I express regret for any perceived disrespect of law enforcement.
Oh.
So he's throwing it back on
right.
the people that
you
his
guys
team
just
offended.
Took it the wrong way.
Our players' goal was to show support for positive change in our community. I do believe that supporting our players' First Amendment rights and supporting local law enforcement are not mutually exclusive. Then the Rams head coach, Jeff Fisher, said that neither the team nor the NFL are going to discipline the players. he said that it was their, quote, choice to exercise their free speech, end quote, and would not comment further. So, if there were 5 white Ram players
right behind them
that came out with a what did you say? A big flag bearing Officer Darren Wilson's face, or a support Darren Wilson, or a God bless Darren Wilson sign, right behind those 5, big banner. Would this team have taken action? Would they say, they can exercise their free speech? Well, I'll take it to the absurd. What if 5 white players came out carrying a swastika?
Oh, it would have been. Are you kidding me?
It's their choice to exercise their free speech.
They'd be smoked from the game.
We are business owners, correct?
Yes.
We are. Now, first of all, the NFL would sanction them. The Rams would sanction them. The world would crucify them, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
Right? And rightfully so. So, we're business owners. If we had an employee wearing a Sackheads Radio T-shirt or uniform, as it were, and they were out and they did something like this, does that not reflect upon our organization?
One way or the other.
One way or the other.
Yes.
It does.
Absolutely.
These Ram players were being paid by the Rams, their employer. They're wearing the uniform. They're supposed to be professionals.
Under contract from the NFL to
Under
have the
contract,
rights to play
yes.
for there.
Yep. And they are engaging in this type of activity. Or this type of... Look, I wouldn't want to see players coming out in support of one side or the other on this. But particularly when your support is for a criminal that attempted to murder a police officer. That's what Look, that's if you break it down to it, that's what they're supporting. The people that support this individual,
I understand,
we're supporting somebody that attempted to seriously injure an officer to gain control of that officer's weapon, and the only reason you try to do that is because you want to attempt to murder that particular officer. So if this guy would have gotten that officer's weapon, I believe he would have killed that officer.
I believe so too.
And that officer believes that also. In essence, he had the mindset of a cop killer, and that's what those Ram players are supporting.
Well, let's throw it out. I want to relate this back to what happened with the Clippers and their owner, and I can't remember his name, the cranky old white guy. And look at what the NFL did to him. NBA did to him for comments that he was being illegally recorded in the privacy of his own home that were negative against him. They were horrible comments, but he was being taped illegally by a trusted confidant, his girlfriend, and made some horrible remarks. But what did the NBA do? They forced him to sell his team.
Yeah, and
they kicked him out of the league forever.
And he has a First Amendment right, particularly when he's not representing the team. He's in his own home.
And he's the owner.
Yeah.
And now you have these 5 players representing the St. Louis Rams coming out with the hands-up thing. Now, if they came out and had some other way about positive change that wasn't the hands-up thing, or if they came out and said, hey, no, you know what, we want to show America how to actually put your hands up when a cop tells you to. So you're doing the right thing. Now you're educated. When you're told to put your hands up by a police officer because a crime has been committed or they're doing their job, this is actually how you do it so you don't get yourself killed.
Right.
Don't attack them. Don't kill them. I would even say, okay, you could have gone about it differently, but at least they were trying to be educational.
Right.
This was not that at all. This was them, and fortunately, it was a Rams-Raiders game, so all of 50 people saw it, which is huge.
Right, for them.
For them. But at the end of the day, it's an embarrassment to the NFL, and the NFL who, look at what they're doing to Adrian Peterson. Right, the whole thing with the switch, and he pled it down. Okay, but let's have standards. If you're going to bounce Ray Rice, who now has won his appeal, which is amazing, you're going to suspend Adrian Peterson for a season because he beat his kid with the switch. Okay, when these guys come back out, after everything that's gone on in Ferguson, just up the road from you in St. Louis, and taking the very action that the protesters who were burning that city down were doing, it's irresponsible.
Absolutely.
And that is something that they absolutely need to address. And you know what? I'm losing so much more respect of the NFL as these years go on. There's a reason why people refer to it as the National Felon League. because it's completely out of control.
It is. And look, I stopped following basketball.
Yeah.
I used to like professional basketball, and I'll tell you, my teams were the Golden State Warriors and the Sacramento Kings.
Mm-hmm.
I liked both of those organizations. And I stopped following the NBA when I saw a color guard out there at one of the games, and after the national anthem, as the colors were marching off, the team started shooting hoops over the flags. Completely disrespectful. I never went to another professional basketball game.
That's horrible.
After that. It was ridiculous. And I want to talk about Louis Farrakhan's statements.
History of the world.
Yes. Thank you. So Louis Farrakhan was...
Go back to de Blasio.
Douchebag.
Finish with douchebag.
That's it. There's nothing more to be said.
Well, no, you never said what he said. You jumped off on the Rams.
No, he said racism.
You had a false
100
start.
years. Yeah, no, I'm not going back to that D-bag because we only have 10 minutes left in this segment, and I want to get to Louis Farrakhan. He was speaking at the Black United Summit International Conference at Morgan State University, which is in Maryland, Baltimore. And he said this on November 22nd, so a couple days before
Who still has Farrakhan come out? But go ahead.
The Morgan State University
in
Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay.
They have him come out. He's a big deal. But what he said was, listen, they're not going to back down, and basically,
meaning white people.
No. Right. Basically justifying the use of violence. And he tells the audience that they should teach their babies, quote, how to throw the bottle if they can. And here's a quote from him. But the young, they are God's children, and they are not going down being peaceful. Listen, watch now, because once it starts, it's on. You may not want to fight, but you better get ready. Teach your baby how to throw the bottle if they can. Bite. We're going to die anyway. Let's die for something.
Wow.
Yeah, he went on to say, but when we die and they die, then soon it's going to sit at a table and talk about it. We tried. We want some of this earth, or we'll tear this goddamn country up, is what he said. He went on to talk about how white folks have never been on the edge after they killed a black man.
All of us?
I don't. Apparently,
I have a younger black gal that works for me, and she's about 24, 25. And we were talking about the whole Ferguson thing, and it just came up in conversation. And she said, I have to mute all my friends in social media because they are having, and it shows you how brilliant this young lady was, they were having the emotional argument, and I couldn't deal with it. They were trying to incite things that weren't true. At the end of the day, Michael Brown got himself killed. Nobody did that to him.
Yes.
He made the choice. She said, and I am sick and tired of people telling me that I should be outraged that a black kid was killed by a white cop. I'm not outraged. I'm outraged at all of my friends who are jumping on board and refuse to read any sort of facts about the situation.
What would have happened if Farrakhan, if there was a white counterpart to him, and he was at colleges openly advocating, teaching young white youth to throw their bottle, to bite, because it's coming, and we're going to tear this goddamn country up. I guarantee you there would be a federal investigation.
Oh, yeah.
I guarantee you there would be cops knocking on the door.
Oh, yeah.
To come talk about
Secret Service, baby.
What exactly you're talking about. Do you want an insurrection? Do you want? Why are you going to tear this goddamn country up?
Are you creating this? Why are you creating this?
Right.
Why do you want there to be a problem? Why are you targeting black people?
Right. How is this? How is this not a hate crime? How is
I'll
his
tell you
words
exactly why? Because it's Louis Farrakhan.
Yes.
That's why.
I'm scared. I feel threatened by these remarks. Is anybody going to take a threats report? And I'm threatened because I'm not black. Is anybody going to come take a report on that? Is anybody going to prosecute him for these words and making this threat?
No, nothing will ever come of it.
Hey, FBI, I know you're listening to us. I'm scared.
Right.
I'll be your victim.
Right. And
I feel threatened by what he's saying and what he's trying to incite.
I actually want his entire following under investigation now.
Right. Well, he's the one making the statement. He's the one that made the threat.
But he represents his group.
He does, but I'll start with him. He's the one that made the statement. Therefore, he's the one that made the threat and made it a hate crime because it's based in race. And that's my perception of it, which is all it has to be.
Yeah, that's all you need to do is feel threatened.
And perceive that it's because of my race,
Absolutely.
Which is why he is inciting this
we've
violence.
Talked about the ridiculousness of hate crimes anyhow. But you're right. I mean, this is one of those things where the accountability, I've said this to you before and I'll say it again. There are certain liberal, progressive, and black leaders that are trying to resegregate this country under their own terms.
I think, and we've talked about this. I think that there are certain groups. I think it's more insidious than that. I think that's
part of it.
I firmly believe that if Farrakhan could enslave white people, I think he would do it in a heartbeat, and I think he would do it under the guise of social justice and reparations and making amends for the crimes of the past. I honestly believe he would.
I would be the worst slave. Oh, God, I can't even imagine. I'd get killed, in the first week. And here's why. The first morning that I was to wake up a slave, they're like, you got to get out into the field and plow or
whatever.
Yeah, I'd be like, all right, first things first, where's the coffee? No, you don't get coffee. Kill me. No, just get in the field. No, don't whip me. Kill me. Put one right in the back of my head. I want this over now. I would be the absolute worst slave based on coffee. Coffee alone. Just think about that for a minute.
No, I do, and I know you, so that it's actually you're very serious.
I'm being dead
when you
serious.
say that. And they wouldn't just kill you, that's the problem.
No, that's all right.
They would purposefully not give you coffee.
Right, they would just keep putting me out there every day without coffee.
Right, and without killing you.
Right. It would be
I would get my butt kicked on a daily basis because I would be so combative.
Oh, yeah, no. We're going to be serious now?
We're never serious.
Okay, so why would you even say that?
Because I'm getting, you know why? Because I'm angry.
I think, and you know who I feel worse for?
The kids.
No, is when we're all hiding in Ken's basement.
Right.
And they break in and find us, and then Ken is also...
They wouldn't find us. Ken is better than that. It'd be the Underground Railroad.
All over
But
again.
we'd have to call it something different. We'd have to call it like the subway. I don't know. We'd have to think of something
Underground
cool.
Light Rail.
The Underground Light Rail.
Can you imagine? We'd all just be sitting there on Ken's couch and they'd kick in, and all I could think of is almost like a reverse of. You watch Key and Peele, right? Have you ever seen Key and Peele?
Yes.
Have you ever seen the segment Das Negros?
Yes.
That's how I picture it. We're all sitting on the couch when they boot the door in.
Right.
But it is. I mean, listen, and Sacco's closing us out, and I appreciate it. But we are.
Wait, who's closing us out?
Sacco. So, but I said it before.
The button worked.
I think that there are groups that want to that part of their master plan. I hate to use that term and sound like a conspiracy theorist, but they want to resegregate under their terms, and if that means pushing us out of the lucrative areas, and them moving in, the progressive liberals, however you want to put it, I very, very much believe that
I don't even think it's a liberal conservative issue. I think it is a straight race issue.
Well, I think it's a mix. I think it's a progressive and race issue.
With Farrakhan?
Oh, with Farrakhan, no. I'm just talking about all the other race baiters in general. Think Cuba. Yeah, I would go to Cuba at that point. Just think about it, though. That's such a small island. We could take that over if we had the Sackheads aircraft carrier. We could take over Cuba.
We could
and start over again.
We could, and we'd call it Sackhead Nation.
Yeah, we would. And Ken would be the Minister of Awesomeness. That would just be his title. But he needs to wear one of those general coats that has 45,000 different ribbons and bells and whistles.
Right, we'd give him a
stuff.
ribbon for something, if he wore a Cinderella dress, we'd give him a ribbon for that.
And one of those big gigantic hats, and just walk around with a mace in his hand. I think that would be outstanding.
A big gigantic hat?
Yeah.
Why, to fit on top of his afro? Is everything about race with you?
Oh, I hope he grows it out. Ken, can you do that?
Ken, can you grow an afro?
Can you please grow
and
it out?
send us a picture?
I'll grow mine out.
On your chest.
Folks, when we come back, we have to get into the boner files.
The boner files.
We had interaction with the Speaker of Boner's office, and we'll tell you all about it here on the other side. That's your cue.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. You didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying cow for the stupid promo.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on The Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberties, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Who listens to the Andrea Kaye Show? Let's find out as we eavesdrop on listener Roger Johnson in Encinitas.
You know, if our policy is going to be bring any child who comes across the border that says coordination, we have to take them in.
Okay, so apparently Roger fell asleep in the middle of my brilliant political tirade, and now he plans to sue me because I put him on the air, sleeping. Obviously, he's a liberal.
Snoring, not an option while listening to the Andrea Kaye Show, Tuesday mornings at 11 on Financial News and Talk.
You know I'm right. Y'all know I'm right.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
And we're back here on the Sackheads Radio Show. Check us out, shrmedia.com. You can jump in the chat room there. Make sure you follow us on Facebook and on Twitter at Sackheads. And if you missed the show live, you can get us on the podcast on Spreaker or Libsyn, and we're in iTunes as well.
Yes.
I know. I'm so glad. You know what's funny is somebody asked me this week, what button do we have that you're not allowed to push?
You didn't tell them, did you?
No, because then you would know what it is.
No, but you didn't even describe the location of the button or
No,
anything,
I didn't
did you?
get into any part of it.
Okay.
Because if you don't know, I don't want anyone else to know, and you have yet to figure it out. So we're just going to go with it for right now.
Well, it's still sitting here, and I like how you guys doubled up on the Post-it notes around it.
You have a tendency...
And Christmas lights. Are you kidding me? You guys put Christmas lights around it, and I don't even know when you came in the studio to do that. One of these days I'm going to push it. You know that, right?
I know, and then that thing will happen, and it'll be all ugly. It'll just be ugly. No matter what, we're in trouble.
Boner, our favorite Republican House Speaker.
Who's currently in charge.
Right. John Boner is going to push back the whole fight over Obama's illegal immigration plan until next year. And he wants to do it so he could pass a spending bill. That's nice. And there are conservative Republicans who are a little upset with him about this. And as a result, he is going to need to go to his friends, Nancy Pistol Grip Pelosi and Harry
Jalapeno.
Right, Harry Reid, which means penis. We've been through this before.
We've talked about it.
Right, it's from the Latin root word jalapeno, meaning penis. So, and this isn't the first time he's has to go to his Democrat friends. And look, I'm all for working together on things, but not when there were campaign promises made on behalf by the
promises.
Republican Party and
Yes.
those Republican folks who won their elections. And now just to kind of have all that go away. And there are conservatives like myself who want to use this spending fight now in order to defund the president's action now. We want to have the fight now. And I agree with that. Not we. I'm not in Congress. Although I would be awesome in Congress.
No, you wouldn't.
You're right. I wouldn't.
You would be horrible in Congress.
I would be great in... You know why? Because I wouldn't put up with anybody's crap.
Right. That's why you'd be horrible in Congress, as Congress sits today.
But that's what we need.
I agree.
That's what we need. So, look... They're not keeping their promise. Senator Jeff Sessions basically spoke out about it, saying, "Hey, this violates a campaign promise to that every Republican that we can do everything we can to stop this executive amnesty."
Yes.
And Senator David Vitter also says basically it's a slap in the face to voters who just spoke out in this election. Boehner himself has called the president's action, quote, a serious breach of our Constitution. And has also gone on to say that there are limited options and abilities to deal with it directly. So I pondered all of this earlier today, and decided to call Boehner's office. They don't respond well to media. What I asked was, hey, essentially, given Senator Sessions' statement about violating the campaign promise that every Republican that Republicans would do everything they can to stop this executive amnesty, and also it's a slap in the face to voters, I asked for a response. And I gave an email. Hey, here's my email address. You know, essentially I left an email address. If you don't want to talk to me about it, email me a response, please, something, because folks kind of want to know from you why you're doing this. And then I went on and I asked, if this is a serious breach of our Constitution, then essentially, and that, hey, you think there's limited options available, there are very specific things Congress can do. And it's outlined in the Constitution.
Limited but specific.
Specifically, impeachment.
Yes.
Now, if this House Speaker, if Boehner really believes, and by the way, I asked on this, hey, is impeachment being discussed? Mm-hmm. If it is, okay, Is it being discussed seriously? And if it's not, why is it not being discussed? Because that is a power very specific to the House of Representatives that is given to stop somebody when they seriously breach our Constitution or when they commit high crimes or misdemeanors, which I think a serious, quote, serious breach of our Constitution would be. Our Constitution is it is the law of the land.
Yes. It's
so
the
if somebody
number one
is
base.
if somebody is seriously breaching that Constitution, they are seriously breaking the law of our land.
Go
That
figure.
sounds logical to me, right?
It's very simple.
And if that's the case, if you break the highest law of our land, the United States Constitution, what higher crime is there?
None.
Would that not be a high crime?
Yes.
Or a misdemeanor if you think it's not that big of a document, at least, right? And do you know the response we got back?
Sacco, do you have the cricket button ready? Okay, why don't you play that now?
Yeah.
That would be it.
Yeah, that's the response we got from the Bone Man.
Well, listen, it
from,
goes
from the office.
And we all know that Boehner is a rhino.
He is. Look, I left this message. Here's the contact info, email, nothing. And very specific on his website. Hey, all media inquiries, contact this number.
And you did.
Yes, and I didn't call like at 2 o'clock in the afternoon Pacific time, so it's 5 o'clock there. I called in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like 12:45, 1 o'clock in the afternoon in Washington.
Amazing. And
DC.
there was no response. It's funny because you would think if you wanted to debunk any sort of false accusations or if something wasn't getting reported correctly or if people didn't quite understand what you were trying to say, you would want that story to get out. You would want to give your side of it. If this was being misconstrued the whole time and Boehner said, no, you don't understand. We want to use this for X, Y, and Z, and this is the path we want to take. We want to combine them, whatever. Okay, but it's not. And you call it such an egregious offense, but yet you're not going to move on impeachment. You will file or threaten to file a stupid lawsuit.
Yes.
But you will not go to impeachment. Why?
Because they're afraid the American public
would go nuts.
Absolutely.
And with everything right now that
But
the
is that
news
not
media,
your duty?
Right. And this is what I was going to say. With everything in our country that's a racial divide right now based on the news media and the race pimps that we talked about in the last section, you now get to this. If they impeach this president, it will be all about race, no matter what. We still hear it from the left all the time. Anytime you question this president, it becomes about race. Look how often we're forced to talk about race on the show because of things that this president says or people who criticize this president. Ferguson. Why? Because it's being thrown in that many people's faces. We're almost forced to talk about it.
But I don't think you shy away from doing
the right
thing.
You
because
have
you're
a
afraid.
duty,
you have a duty,
morally and legally, in my opinion.
Yes.
To follow through. If there is qualifications for article of impeachment, then you follow through. And you go for it. Just
and if
like
you don't
they
get a
wanted to do
conviction,
to Bush, how many times did they try to impeach Bush?
Yeah, and for lying when everybody believed there were weapons there, right?
Yeah.
So you impeach,
and now we found out that they were.
And if there's no conviction, there's no conviction.
Right.
Right. But that's the way it goes.
But you've done your job.
You've done your job.
That's what he's afraid of. I think he is afraid that even if, because he knows if he impeached Obama tomorrow, conservatives would applaud him. The people who believe in the rule of the law of the land would actually applaud him for having the audacity.
Correct.
But his fear is there's so many rhinos that would not follow through that if the impeachment does not follow and it does not qualify.
Well, the impeachment would follow. It would just be there would be no conviction in the Senate.
Right. No. Even if he couldn't get it that far, if he couldn't even get the House to vote for impeachment because people were afraid to vote for it. Wait. Just hear me out.
I'm not saying anything.
No, I know. You
Okay.
have that look on your face where I can see you start to suck air in and start flapping your gums at me. No, but he is, and this is all the wrong reasons, but he's afraid that if he doesn't get the votes for it, because people will be cowards and be more worried about re-election than anything else, then he's going to look like an idiot and not win his re-election. All the wrong reasons.
But who just got elected?
The Republicans.
Exactly.
I know.
And
I agree
and
with
some
you.
and some conservatives.
Right. I agree with you.
And they could go back to their constituents and say, listen, the United States Constitution gives us the authority, gives us the duty to bring these proceedings when there are high crimes or misdemeanors. The president himself said prior to this that he could not do this because it would be a violation
And then all
of
of a
law.
sudden he can.
Right, and then all of a sudden he does. We had no choice. We did our duty. It didn't convict. Our duty was done.
Right.
It was nothing personal. I had an obligation
And then
as
you
your
punt it
representative.
over to the Senate.
Yes.
And I agree with you. I am telling you why it will not happen. I am telling you that the reality is, and I'm not saying it's right, and I totally disagree.
No, I understand what the reality is,
right?
But it's
but it comes down to politics. They're so worried about damn re-elections and looking good and qualify, blah 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 blah, that they're trying to play nice with the other side, who never plays nice with them. And that, to me, is just pathetic and spineless. And I would like to see, I pray that Boner responds. I pray that his office gives you a response. Because I would like to see what a pile of, thanks, Goose.
You're welcome.
What a pile of steaming dung it will be.
They're not going to respond.
No, of course not.
Are you kidding me? Who are we?
There we go. We put them on record. Unable to respond.
Refused.
Refused to respond.
Refused to
Did
respond.
not answer to his constituents. Understood. Thank you.
Not even the media. Failed to respond to the media.
I'm sure we have listeners in Ohio that would love to hear a response.
Of course.
So it's our job. Listen, this is just sad, and it's going to go this way. And I predict right now, I don't think you'll ever see an impeachment of Obama. I really don't. No one will even try. And like I talked about a few minutes ago, you had Bush. They tried to impeach him 12 or 14 times, something like that, over something that has been proven true. Clinton got impeached over essentially a BJ, and it was about lying and everything like that. And then before that, who was the last impeachment we had? Nixon. Who it
Nixon
didn't even get to. It was going to, but it didn't even get to, over a burglary. And now you have gross violations of the Constitution, and I agree that there are gross violations of the Constitution. You have how many states now? 16, 17 states who are
17 states.
Right.
Don't showbiz the next segment.
I thought it was part of this segment. I misread the board.
That's not part of this segment.
I was segueing.
No, you don't segue yet.
Well, now I don't, because it's not part of this segment.
Gosh, are you kidding me? And it's. I don't know what the deal is with the Republican leadership, and we've complained about it before. But now there's a big stir up over this Benghazi report.
Yes,
that came out.
Yes,
from that committee, and there are House Intelligence Committee Republican members who are upset that said the Democrats should have written this. This shouldn't have come out from us. Survivors of the attack who testified in closed-door sessions are furious at this.
And they should be.
Absolutely, they should be.
Listen.
Lindsey Graham, who I'm not a big fan of, has just...
Lindsey
Graham? Cracker? That wasn't racial.
No, graham crackers, love them.
Right.
S'mores, graham crackers.
Like Teddy Grahams?
The whole thing, yeah, Teddy Grahams.
Do you think he wears a Teddy? I digress. So, is that his new nickname, Teddy Graham?
Teddy Graham.
So Lindsey Teddy Graham has called it garbage, and I just think there's such a weakening in the Republican leadership. I'm not excited about Mitch McConnell over there.
No, horrible.
And when is the last time you heard anything about the Benghazi committee being?
Nothing. Benghazi's being forgotten now that the election's over. It's fallen by the wayside, and it's not being pushed the way it should be. This is further proof of the Republican leadership is all about just being in power versus doing what's right and wrong. And for all the true conservatives that are out there, get pushed to the side for these rhino Republican leaders to go forward and get elected again and be in power and achieve power. It has nothing to do with serving the Republic. It has nothing to do with serving as they've been elected to do.
Mm-hmm.
The rule of law is not important to these people. It's pathetic. And it's a sad state of affairs. And listen, if I was an elected official and a conservative right now, I would be doing well more than calling this garbage. I would be on every news agency. I'd be blowing up the leadership.
Not literally.
Not literally.
Not literally.
I'd be putting them on blast, as the kids like to say. I don't know what kids, but I've heard them say it. I would be I'd be reaching across to the House of Representatives. I'd find any Democrats that could stand with me, that would agree. I would do whatever I can and say, hey, you know what? This is so much junk. And you were stomping on the graves of those 4 individuals that were killed in Benghazi.
Including a United States ambassador.
And nothing's being done. And this is the sad state of affairs, folks, of our current elected officials. A United States ambassador has been murdered, and they've politicized this versus doing the right thing. And you could argue that there was complicity in the sense of not acting on behalf of certain members of the administration. And then I go back to the Nixon thing. That was a burglary. Impeachment was coming. 4 people had died, including a United States ambassador. And there's more and more proof that they knew this potential was there and did nothing. You have the IRS going after conservative groups. You have Fast and the Furious. You have all of these different problems, and not one word of impeachment's coming out now. Not one.
Nope.
And, you know, I think the IRS thing, I really think that's going to be the slam dunk if the truth actually progresses and comes out. But at the end of the day, still, nobody's stepping up.
And I want to talk about something else that I haven't heard a lot about, and that is the whole IRS scandal, the whole IRS thing. There is a group that tried to get information. I think Cause of Action is the name. They tried to get any document related to exchanges between the IRS and the White House about requests for tax returns for people or for businesses, and they were basically told, constraints in the Internal Revenue Code, can't do this. Well, the group filed a lawsuit, and a judge ruled, hey, no, you have to turn any relevant information over to Cause of Action by December 1st in order to comply with this Freedom of Information request. Well, the Inspector General's office received documents and basically wrote a letter to the Cause of Action group saying, hey, we've located over 2,000 documents in response to your request. Because of the data they contain, we can't turn these over to you, but they do exist. Over 2,000 pages of, and I guess there's because there's specific taxpayer info in there, they can't turn it over. It's a specific exemption in the code. But the attorney,
solicitor or
Inspector General basically said, no, they exist. There's over 2,000 documents that exist, correspondence between the IRS and the White House relating to taxpayer information.
Weird, right?
How's that not a big deal?
Well,
Nixon used the IRS.
Yes.
Right? Now you have over 2,000 documents.
The potential's there. And listen.
But between the IRS and specifically when you're asking for...
If I was the administration and I had nothing to hide, I'd be releasing these documents yesterday.
I'd be like, hey, let me redact all the information that I can't release to you. Here it is.
Here's
everything.
Look at,
yeah,
front to back.
This is an email. See, this is an email saying, no, don't target anybody because we believe in all Americans equal under the law.
Or even,
right?
I just found out that there may be targeting, and this will stop immediately. I cannot believe, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Something that shows even remorse after they found out it happened.
Right.
Anything that I could release, I'd be throwing out there. So help me, I'd be throwing it out there. And weird, they won't do it. It's so strange how this administration, the most transparent administration in history, refuses to share information they had that would bolster their argument. Benghazi. Again, Fast and the Furious. Again, all this stuff. All you have to do, Mr. President, is
That's your
redact-
nickname in bed, isn't it?
What's that?
Fast and Furious?
Fast and Furious. Fast and mediocre.
Fast and tired.
It's more like speed of mud and exhausted. But, it's so many of these things that they claim they know nothing about anywhere, no matter what.
Right.
Release the files. You love to release Bush's files. Fast and the Fragile. You love to release all of Bush's emails and files. You've been doing that nonstop since you've been in office, which is great. That's fine. But release yours too. Because if there's nothing to lose and you have everything to gain, both politically and us as a nation, to turn around and say, hey, you know what? This president didn't know.
And I'm going to bring it all back around right now. With all of these things going on, dear Boner, why are you not taking the action? Why are you not taking the fight to them now? You know this action is illegal that he's doing.
Illegal.
We need to make a song.
Call it Dear Boner. No, that probably... Well, it would sell, though.
It would sell.
It would sell.
That would sell. Would be before people even knew what it meant. That would sell. And then you'd find it on weird websites.
I agree.
So with everything going on here, and again, we just touched on, in 10 minutes, we touched on all of these things, that for Boner to punt, to use your term, now on this, or to kick it down the road until after when we control the Senate, then we'll go ahead and have this fight. Look, I know the Republicans are worried about shutting down the government. That's what they're really worried about. And look, the Republicans shut down the government, and they just won a major victory in this election.
As a result, some could argue.
We are 2 years away from the next election cycle. The time to shut down the government or to pass a bill that you know the president is not going to sign, which could result in a shutdown, the time to do that is right now. And you put the bill out there for the American public, and you go on talk shows, and you play the president's own words, and you go on MSNBC, and you say, listen, the president himself said that this action is unlawful. We passed a bill that would not allow this to happen. He failed to sign it. We did our job. He's the one, by failing to sign it, that forced the shutdown, not us. And so you eat it a little bit. You spin it as best you can, and you eat it a little bit. Because the government will reopen. If a government shuts down now, regardless of who is at fault,
It's always going to reopen.
It's always going to reopen, right?
It's not like it's going to go out of business.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's the thing, and we could talk about,
But
last
this
time
is the
the
time
biggest
to
argument
do
was
it.
the recovery. Oh, we're in the middle of a recovery, and you're going to shut down the government? First of all, if that many people work for the American government, that their paycheck affects the recovery of this country, we have way too many people there. Second of all...
Yes! Thank you!
Second of all, it has to be about the good of the entire nation, not the good of a select few. And once again, we get into that. Oh, this group is so important, we can't hurt them with this segment, with this sort of behavior. Shut it down. Even if it's for just a short period of time, you shut it down. It will reopen. As much as I would love the fact that maybe it would never... And when the other thing, too, to remember about shutdowns is when the government shuts down, essentials stay open. It's the Department of Jell-O Pudding Thongs. I'm sorry, I just read that off from... It's the Department of, ridiculous water collection counting in Des Moines, Iowa that gets shut down for a few days. It's not like the military gates get closed and they send all the protection home, or the federal officers go home, or anything like that. It's not like the president has to fly back to Chicago and wait at his house until it reopens so he can go back to work. It doesn't happen like that. Shut it down, make your point. And
not even make your point. You're trying to pass law, and the president is failing
But
to
that's
sign.
going to be the point. And it will be. And if you pass a sound spending bill, and you put it on his desk and he refuses to sign it, you now can run with that for as long as you need to.
Oh, absolutely.
And it proves that he's an obstructionist.
But that's who, Boner?
Both of them.
Yes. Do you think
Boner in the brain?
Do you think Obama or Boehner and Obama are close?
Golfing
buddies. Do you think? Yeah. Do you think they're golfing? But can you call him Obama's Boner?
I think they might be that close.
That's what I'm asking.
And listen, to play. I know we're up against a break here, but to play into that a little bit before everyone gets into a tizzy, I have no problem if the Speaker of the House and the Democratic president have an open line of communication and friendly enough that they can talk about things.
Right.
I think
like
that would
Clinton
be great.
Clinton and Gingrich.
Absolutely. That is great as long as there is things being done.
Yes.
And it is not just Boehner being limp for this guy. I'm sorry, that wasn't. It doesn't. You get the point.
I do.
And I would be okay with that. I know people get upset when they see Boehner golfing with the president. I'm like, hey, you know what? If he was actually doing the work he's supposed to do and they're golfing together and that's getting it done, I'm all for it. I don't think that everything needs to be done in a White House or in an office or anything like that. Get out where you're just two normal guys having a couple beers and a cigar and trying to come to an agreement, trying to come to a term that everyone can agree on. There's zero problem with that, and it has to be something that we're not afraid of in this country, but we need somebody who will stand up tall and erect and do it, and this Boner just isn't. Hey, we're up against a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about a couple, just one or two states that's mad about immigration, and then Russia's recession here on the SHR Media Network.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. That you didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean,
Dude, I'm not saying cow for the stupid pro.
Sackhead Clint,
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on The Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberties, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Who listens to the Andrea Kaye Show? Let's find out as we eavesdrop on listener Roger Johnson in Encinitas.
If our policy is going to be bring any child who comes across the border who says coordination, we got to take them in.
Okay, so apparently Roger fell asleep in the middle of my brilliant political tirade, and now he plans to sue me because I put him on the air, sleeping. Obviously, he's a liberal.
Snoring, not an option while listening to The Andrea Kaye Show, Tuesday mornings at 11 on Financial News and Talk.
You know I'm right. Y'all know I'm right.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
And welcome back here to the Sackheads Radio Show, live on the SHR Media Network. Where?
Netwick.
Yeah, we're
Netwick.
changing it all, folks. We're blazing this trail. Now we're in Netwick. We're not even a network anymore. We will tell you what a network means next week because it's kind of a big deal, and you'll want to stand tuned.
You better make a note of that because I'm going to forget that we were supposed to tell them what that is.
Netwick. I got to come up with something good for that now. Damn it. This segment of the show is brought to you by Patriot Ordnance Factory Firearms, POF-USA.com. Go ahead and check them out. Tell them the Sackhead sent you. So, over 16 states, including Texas, so that would be 17, have filed a lawsuit over the immigration executive order that was signed by the president last week. Weird, right? It was almost like...
That's not weird at all.
What are you listening to over there?
Nothing. I was on POF's website.
You know, we all knew this was going to happen, and I'm shocked that, honestly, it's only 17. I thought there'd be a couple more states, and it could be early. There could be a lot of other states jumping in as well.
Right.
I figured as many states filed lawsuits about Obamacare would have jumped in on this as well, because there is a lot of similarities in some senses. But at the end of the day, we all know his immigration plan is a horrible idea. And we talked about it a little bit last week, probably not as much as we should have. You know, I have no problem with people coming to this country to live the American dream. We talked about Sacco's dad and other people that we know personally. But when you have a president who, up until an election, turns around and says, yeah, I can't do that. I'm not an emperor. I don't have that authority. If I did, I'd probably do it, but I don't, blah, 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 blah. And then turns around, and once he realizes that the House was not going to be taken over by Democrats and the Senate wasn't going to be held, and he wasn't going to be able to do it legally, just went and did it on his own. And now you're going to have these massive lawsuits. I wish an injunction would be filed, putting it on hold until a judge looks at it and it's decided whether or not it is legal or not, because you're not going to be able to undo a lot of what he's doing with this executive order. Even if it's found to be illegal, it's going to be very, very difficult to undo this. Plus, you know, this registration of the illegals and coming out of the dark and all that stuff, coming out of the shadows, as he likes to say, this could only be temporary. The House and the Senate, and if you get a Republican president in 2 years, could very well overturn this like that. And now,
and I like how you snapped into the microphone.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now you're going to have all of these illegals who are here, who've now registered and told everybody where they were on the list, and they're not going to do it either. They're not going to... I bet you're probably going to see maybe 6% of every illegal in this country who qualifies under the Obama executive action sign up. And they're all going to be like elderly people and people who think that, you know, it's the right thing to do. Everybody else doesn't want to. First of all the criminals and everything, they don't want any part of this because they refuse to be involved. But even the ones who are here that are maybe working illegally and everything, that aren't out committing. What? That come through?
Yes.
I was just taking a drink. My throat dried out. They're not going to do it either for a couple different reasons. First of all, if they're working with fake ID or using somebody else's identification to get paychecks and taxes, etc., that's going to blow that completely out of the water. And then people are they're going to know the federal government's going to come after them for the taxes that they owe that they earned, that the other person paid. They're going to get arrested for tax fraud, which will be a felony, and now they would be qualified for deportation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So his little plan of, we love everybody and we want everyone to stay, isn't even going to work. It was a political move. I don't believe he even thinks it's going to stand. I just think that he did it because he's trying to save face for the 2016 Democrats. They almost want the Republicans to overturn this because then they can turn around and use that in 2016 and say, hey, you know what? We tried to pass immigration, and those damn hating Republicans, those evil immigrant-hating Republicans, overturned it, so you won't have any freedom. You remember that when your friends go to the polls or when you vote illegally as a dead person.
You can't vote. Oh, wait, yeah, never mind. You just said it illegally. The thing I like about the lawsuit is they cite specifically Article 2, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution, which says that the president shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. So what they're saying is, hey, the laws are not being faithfully executed, therefore this is illegal. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I didn't see it in there, but I don't know if they also cited the authority of Congress specifically to deal with issues related to immigration. And I know I've seen the pundits talk. Well, Bush did it and Reagan did it. No, they did it after Congress acted.
Right.
They did it in order to facilitate the law that Congress passed.
Yeah.
Not unilaterally. Pardon me, like this president has done. So 17 states. Total, and it was filed in the U.S. District Court in Texas. Nice.
Yeah, well.
Good place to file it. And they basically named the top immigration enforcement agencies as the specific defendants. So I wonder what's going to happen here. First of all, you know that if they hear this, it's going to take a while to hear, right? It's going to make its way through the courts. He may be out of office, and this may not get overturned for a couple of years.
4 years.
Right.
It could go all the way up to Supreme Court.
But like you said, I would like to see the court put an injunction on it for, hey, pending this lawsuit, you shall not enforce these things. You shall not do these things. This is put on hold. We are stopping this action at this time.
Yeah.
Pending this hearing.
I also would like to see them file an addendum to this stating that the suspension of the current enforcement laws that he did over a year and a half ago are illegal, and they must be returned as they are per the law until it is decided whether or not it is legal as well.
Right.
I think that's a big part that's missing. That's something that we forget about. A year and a half ago, he suspended a large majority of enforcement. Which is why if you listen to the INS representatives, stuff like that, they'll all tell you part of the biggest problem they have is they don't have the tools to do their job because the executive doesn't want them to have it.
Right.
And they work for the executive at the end of the day.
Yes.
So, I would like to see that pushed through as well. And if they don't, I think that's a big miss because I think it ties directly into this lawsuit. It shows that he has a pattern when it comes to immigration to sidestepping the law as it stands.
He has a history, period. Look, the Supreme Court slapped him down over his, quote, recess appointments. Yes. It's not like he hasn't sidestepped Congress and sidestepped the Constitution in the past. He has. He has a history of this.
Yes. And I would like to see, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, I would like to see a comparative number for the last 5 presidents on major executive orders that line up with what this president's done with his, specifically immigration, but any other executive orders that they've issued that has sidestepped current law on the president's executive order.
How about lining up his debt versus all the other presidents' debt combined?
Oh, yeah. No, that's a slam dunk.
Oh, wait. Yeah, he did that. Didn't we reach like a new milestone recently?
Yeah, baby.
We did, right?
Yeah.
High five.
Woohoo!
Yes.
Oh, man. And I can't wait until we run up all the bills here in the Sackheads radio show. And when they bring us to court, I'm just going to cite the federal government's approach to banking.
Which is?
I just don't pay it. I just keep borrowing money. Doesn't matter.
Right.
I'm just going to keep borrowing it. I don't need to have a plan to pay it back. I don't even have to try to pay it back.
Hey, they forgive foreign debt. Why not forgive ours?
Right? If we were illegal, they would.
Because that's foreign debt.
I have an idea.
Okay, go. We renounce our citizenship.
Let's go become Liechtenstein citizens for a day.
Okay.
Just for one day.
Okay.
Enter the country illegally and start all over again. Rack up a ton of debt and then just be like, you got to excuse it. It's foreign debt. And see what happens.
Let's buy an island. Hear me out on this. We buy an island.
We got to dock the carrier somewhere.
We buy a small island.
Yeah.
It's our own country.
Yeah.
We call it Sackhead Nation.
I'm with you so far.
And we just put our money there. Everything we purchase is we stand on our island and purchase it. And then bring it to the island and then don't pay because U.S. law wouldn't apply to us.
How much? I wonder if there are any cheap islands out there right now that we could possibly come up with. Just
there are
something
towns
cheap.
for sale.
I know.
I want to buy a town.
I want to poll all of our listeners. If you're not listening live or if you're not in chat, I want you to email me, Sean, at shrmedia.com. Would you help us purchase a town? And would you move there?
Yes.
And live in a place
where we rule with an iron fist.
Scratch that.
Okay.
Where we live by the Constitution.
And our will is supreme.
Scratch that.
Okay.
And we actually run with elected officials. It gets run the way it should be, just to show the entire nation that it's possible.
How prosperous it is. And we put up a huge wall with guard towers.
Major guard towers.
Because it's a private, and it is a shall carry.
Oh, you shall carry.
You shall carry. It is a
you
shall carry municipality.
Mm-hmm.
And we just protect ourselves.
Absolutely.
We have a checkpoint.
I think we could.
Because it's private road, right?
How much is Detroit right now?
It's probably like $1.50.
I think we could do Detroit. You know what? In all those city blocks, like there are city blocks in Detroit that are vacant right now.
So how long do you think it would take us to get sued? If we put a checkpoint up, we own the road, right? We own the town. Road, everything. We own it. If we set up a checkpoint and prohibited people from coming in.
Can we call it Checkpoint Charlie?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
The symbolism is amazing.
How long till we got sued?
Oh, within a week.
You think
within
so?
A week. Oh, yeah.
But it's private property.
No, because you would have some liberal loon show up just to try to sue us.
Right.
Just to try to sue us. It would be out. Can you imagine if we had a privately owned city?
They sell them. Yeah, they
That's
sell
a good
towns.
point, Sacco.
What do you say?
He said they would have to serve you with the paperwork. You would have to be legally served to appear in court if they sued you.
Right.
And if they can't get in to serve you,
right?
How can they legally say it was served? Therefore, you cannot be brought into court unless they charge you in absentia. But even then, that's a stretch. That's a very good point, Sacco. I'm glad you actually had something to say tonight.
And we just and we have a
You
town.
earned it.
Look, there's a few houses there, and it's just Sackhead Nation, and that's
What
it.
if we did this? So there are cities in Detroit that are literally blocks for sale for like $800 for the entire city block.
Right.
What if we bought like 15 of those and put up the wall and did it right in downtown Detroit and started it to show them how they could grow and prosper and just continually buy blocks around it?
The problem is we
and
would
spread.
have no tax base.
We'd
have
true.
no industry.
It's not true.
Well, we wouldn't tax. That's the problem.
I bet you. Oh no, we would tax fairly. You would pay for gated farmland in Detroit. You'd pay for city services. There would be a reasonable tax on goods, reasonable, to pay for city services, but not for profit in any way, shape, or form. It's to pay for the basic needs of the city. Yeah, I think that would work.
Look, we don't need plumbing. Everybody has an outhouse and wash basins.
In Detroit, yeah.
Right?
That's why the UN's pissed and checking out Detroit for getting water shut off. They all have outhouses and wash basins.
Our town would.
Our town would. Absolutely. I'm just saying.
Have you seen the movie The Village?
No.
We need to do that. And that's all I'm going to say. If you have not seen the movie The Village, check it out. That's what we should do.
Ken has a great idea. All services are privatized, fee reimbursed based on usage.
Yes.
I think that's perfect.
Yes.
I have no problem with that. You have a power company come in. You have a sewer company come in. A water company come in. all that.
Yeah.
You have
employees.
Yeah. You have very specific language in the contract that they cannot gouge.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I don't think that gouging is right. On the other hand, we will not set ridiculous standards upon them that, you have to sell everyone a water for a penny a gallon or whatever it is.
No.
You know, but I bet you
fair market value based upon the average of X number of cities in the similar region, right?
Similar size region. Yes, absolutely. And I bet you if you did that, I think people would move. I absolutely. All you
know who would move? You know who we would get living there? Here's who we would get. Military, cops, firefighters.
Yep. I think you might get some nurses.
A couple.
I think you might actually get a few real politicians too. But what by that I mean you might get somebody.
We'd get Ken.
We'd get Ken.
So we would have a diverse population right off the bat.
We would have the most diverse population. We'd have Sacco. He's practically Middle Eastern.
He is practically Middle Eastern. Well, he is Middle Eastern.
He is Middle Eastern, as a matter of fact. So, yeah. Are you kidding me? Let's do this. Let's go find a town online. This is our homework for this week. Let's find a town for sale online and start setting it up. Everyone in the town can say they have one black friend. Instead of like, man, can we make him the minister of token? He can walk around like you remember.
No, he's our ambassador to blackness. Right? Anytime we get a black visitor, Ken goes out and greets him to make him feel welcome.
Well, I just Flavor Flav with the clock. We could give something like that to Ken, but with a giant token on it. So he can just walk around town, be like, "Hey, how you doing?" But anywhere he goes with that token, he gets free stuff. Just because. Like, he could just walk into the bar and be like, "Yeah, I'll have a beer. That'll be $2.25. Nope, here's my token. I'm sorry, Mr. McClinton, that's free per the town elders."
Okay, hang on a second. I just found one. Seneca in California. It's 12 acres. It's a gold mining ghost town. $225,000.
That's not bad, actually.
It's not.
Hear ye, hear ye. This is from Ken in the chat. Hear ye, hear ye. Nah, dude, really, are you black? Oh, man. I know. Actually, we'd have two black guys because I could tell you right now Mr. E would move in a minute. He hasn't been on the show in a while, but he's an old friend of ours as well. He would move in a minute. So that's two black guys.
Yeah.
Dude, we would have a better ratio in that town than most metropolitan cities.
Here's a problem. It's only 12 acres, number one. Number two, it's the last private acreage, they think, within a national forest. I don't want to be within a national forest. I don't want to be within federal lands.
No, because that crosses so much. There's so much more you have to do at that point. Yeah.
Hang on, I'm still looking.
There's some in the Midwest. I've seen a couple towns. There
goes the crime rate.
Ken, we all know it's going to be one of us crazy white drunks that starts the crime rate.
The crime rate's going to be fight.
No, you know what the crime rate's going to be?
What?
Speeding, because we're all going to drive around on those little like quads or something. We'll have like, have you ever been to those private old sounds in Florida where they're on those little cars?
Yeah.
It'll be like that. Like, it'll be speeding or something ridiculous because we'll be fools and we'll just drive around like idiots.
Okay, I found one. $399,000. There's a South Dakota town for sale, including the Sweat Tavern, SWETT.
What?
Yep. Hang on, I'm reading it right here. Price that hardly guarantees you a window in New York or San Francisco. The entire town of Sweat, South Dakota. It's along U.S. Highway 18.
Well, how far from any major city is it?
Small town of 6.16 acres. There are 2 people that live there. At its most, it had 40 at one time. And it has its own post office.
Wow. Can we, hey, Ken, give us a call. We may have to move our center of operations. that might. Ken, we're talking this week. We may all have to go.
We could buy Buford. I think it's in South Dakota for 100,000, population 1. Right now.
How big was it at one time?
No. This is a new one. You can own Hunger Games District 12 for $1.4 million. We don't have that kind of money. Well.
We could get some investors, though. We could make this a loot.
How are we ending with general jackassery?
I don't know. But this is the best idea we've ever had.
This is.
I'm not going to lie. I bet you we could get T-Bone.
Oh, yeah.
I bet you T-Bone would go.
The problem is, what do we do with Liberal Jake?
I think Liberal Jake would be perfect.
But here's the problem. We have no liberals. That's ordinance number 1.
Right.
That's SHO Sackhead ordinance number 1.
We've decided he's more of a libertarian.
He has, but he calls himself a liberal.
I know.
Right? If
that
it's kind of like this whole gender identification thing,
that will
right?
stop the lawsuits. No, we have our liberal. It's Liberal Jake. Sorry, you can't sue us. They're here.
Or we don't even have to lie, right? We could just say, you don't think we have liberals, and then we walk Ken out. They're going to assume.
They're just
we don't even have
assumption.
to. Right, we don't even have to lie.
Ken's going to tell his wife that they're moving up in the world next to the white people in a gated farmland community in Detroit. Oh, man, he could be the Jeffersons to my bunker. Oh, that's so... I'm calling Mrs. Ken Weezy from now on. If he gets Sammy Davis to show up and kiss me on the cheek for a picture, this is so a done deal. I love this idea. And you know what? We got to start a website or something. We encourage groups of conservatives to start doing their own conservative towns all across the country and start getting bigger and bigger and bigger. My goal is to take over.
Actually have one?
Is to take over Detroit. And here's why. Because I think that we can undo the damage the Democrats have done for the last 50 years in Detroit. Progressives. In 15 years. 15 years. I bet you we could undo it all, make it lucrative and prosperous for all the current residents and new residents.
Now, Ken just posed an interesting question. Michael Jackson, what demographic is that? And that depends on what rules you're following. If you're following California rules, he's white because you can change and identify with whatever you feel. But in Texas, he's still black.
Right.
So that would depend on where we purchase said town.
You know what we could do? We could have like a panel to decide what Ken would actually be. And we would start off with audio and have him do like a speech for just audio for the panel. And then like a written thing with politics.
Okay.
And then have them make a decision then and give them one opportunity to change it after we play a clip of Ken on our show for 30 seconds and then let them vote on what Ken is.
Yeah, but it can't be where the white women at. You can't play that clip. They'd get it.
Golf Dogs is saying Ken would eventually be the mayor and start smoking crack and on and on and on and on.
Ken would never be mayor. They'd never elect a black man.
Who are you kidding? Ken's the only one that would have any work ethic.
I know.
That would be the best part. The rest of us would be walking around like transients.
No, Ken. That's why Ken should be the city manager.
Oh, yes.
The one who does the real work.
Right. Right. We could elect a phony baloney mayor.
Yeah. Either one of us could do that.
No, we'd have Sacco do it.
You know what? We'd have a 3-part mayor.
A 3-part mayoral
board
office. And essentially,
Ken would be the commissar of hookers and blow. And now for clarification, reactionaries, is that the action or the drug?
Right, we just want to know.
We just want to know so we can have the appropriate
We have to write the town ordinances.
Right.
And if we're going to write him in, we have to make sure that we get it 100% because there's fine lines to all this stuff. So
right.
Oh,
I was having so much fun.
We
didn't even get to. Okay, I got to get to this last segment. Russia may be headed towards a recession.
Good segment.
Yeah, thank you. They acknowledge, hey, they're going to fall into recession next year. Between sanctions and the plunge in gas prices, they're hurting. So we got everything.
We got it all in. We did it again.
We did wrap up first, which was the best part. We need to look at towns.
We do. We're going to look at it. Next week, we'll have a list of towns. Folks, we'll see you next Wednesday night here on the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network.
Can we take over housing and urban development?
All the great talent here on SHR Media.
I get it. Urban development because he's black.
Oh, because he's black. Urban
right.
development.
Urban development.
Good one, Ron.
I like it.
Good one. Ken's going to be the only guy living in the projects in our city.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here, too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late-night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio.
Sack News. Sack News.
Radio.
Sack News. Sack News.
Radio.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
In America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.